Ever wonder how a honky-tonk legend stays true to his roots in a pop-driven world? Let's explore the life of Alan Jackson. I'm Leah, and I'm honestly so excited about this one today.
I'm Garrett, and yeah, I'm eager to dive in. This story's got some real depth to it.
Welcome to Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett.
All right, let's set the stage for this one. Today we're talking Alan Jackson, the neo-traditional country powerhouse. Neo-traditional just means bringing back classic country sounds like fiddle and steel guitar and storytelling that feels grounded and real. Quick personal note, I caught an Alan Jackson show a few years back, and not gonna lie, it kind of blew my mind. He didn't lean on fireworks or huge screens, it was just tight musicianship and songs people knew by heart. When the steel guitar cried and he rolled into Chattahoochee, the whole place lit up. It felt like you were hanging out on a back porch, even though we were in a big arena. That old school connection, that's pretty cool, right?
Totally. So big picture. Alan Jackson was born in 1958 in Noonan, Georgia, grew up modestly, and became one of the best-selling country artists ever, with over 75 million records sold worldwide. He's known for writing many of his own songs and being a champion of traditional country. He's a member of the Grand Ole Opry, basically country music's most storied weekly stage in Nashville. He joined in 1991, and he was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2017, which is like the Lifetime Achievement Club for the genre.
And the numbers stack up. He's had 66 songs on the country charts, 35 at number 1. That's sustained radio love across decades. Album-wise, he's released 21 studio sets, including gospel and Christmas projects, plus a bluegrass album. 9 of his albums hit multi-platinum, which just means they sold multiple millions. Through all of it, he kept that lean, fiddle and steel backbone, while tastes around him went pop-leaning.
Let's unpack the early years. He grew up in a small house built around his grandfather's tool shed, and he took that small-town life and wove it into his lyrics later. He married his high school sweetheart, Denise, in 1979. Their partnership shows up in his songs about family and faith. Early on, he worked construction and ran a forklift while playing little clubs. By 1983, he was writing more seriously. Friends introduced him to country beyond the gospel he'd grown up on. Artists like Gene Watson and John Anderson, who are classic-leaning country voices.
Here's a wild turning point. He moved to Nashville in his late 20s, worked in the TNN mailroom, and in 1986 got pulled from the audience during a TV taping to sing George Jones's He Stopped Loving Her Today. George Jones, by the way, is a titan of traditional country balladry. Producer Keith Stegall noticed him that day. Stegall would go on to produce 19 of Alan's albums, shaping that signature sound. In 1987, Alan cut a rare pre-debut demo called New Traditional in Hendersonville, Tennessee. It was only released in Japan, which is kind of a collector's unicorn now.
And Denise plays a key role. While working as a flight attendant, she met Glenn Campbell, the country pop crossover legend who did Wichita Lineman. He handed her a manager's card, which opened industry doors. Alan signed with Arista's brand new Nashville label in 1989, becoming their first artist. The debut single, Blue-Blooded Woman, didn't hit big, but then Here in the Real World soared in early 1990, and that album gave him more hits like Wanted and Chasing That Neon Rainbow. Plus his first number 1, I'd Love You All Over Again. Why do you think that switch flipped so fast after the first single?
I think it's the clarity of identity. Those songs sounded classic but fresh. The lyrics felt lived in, not gimmicky. Radio could slot him next to George Strait and Randy Travis. Both are modern keepers of the classic sound, and it made sense. Then came Don't Rock the Jukebox in 1991 with a juggernaut run of number 1s, and he joined the Opry that year, which stamped him as part of country's lineage. By 1993, A Lot About Livin' and A Little About Love dropped Chattahoochee, his riverbank anthem that won CMA Single and Song of the Year. That's career-defining territory.
Then, Who I Am in 1994 stacked more number 1s like Livin' on Love and Gone Country. He could even turn a cover like Summertime Blues into a hit. Behind the scenes, that Keith Stegall partnership and the use of his touring band, the Strayhorns, in the studio kept a live band feel. The Strayhorns include players on steel guitar, fiddle, and Telecaster, which is that bright, twangy electric guitar you hear up front. That consistency is part of why the songs translated so well from record to arena.
By the mid-90s, he was headlining giant tours. The 1995 Fruit of the Loom Comfort Tour was around 100 dates with a massive sponsorship. Also, he wasn't just writing for himself. He co-wrote Clay Walker's 1994 #1 If I Could Make a Living. That shows his pen had reach, and the reverence for elders stayed front and center. In 1999, at the CMA Awards, when George Jones was told to trim his song, Alan stopped his own performance to sing Jones's choices, then walked off. That protest cemented him as a traditionalist guardian.
Which set up 2000's Murder on Music Row with George Strait, who is known as the king of country for his decades of traditional hits. That duet criticized pop-leaning country. It wasn't released as a single, yet it charted high and opened the ACM Awards, fueling a public debate about country's direction. And then came one of his most culturally important moments. After 9/11, he wrote Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning, debuted it live at the CMA Awards in 2001, and the response was overwhelming. Airplay launched from that live performance. The song later anchored his 2002 album Drive.
Why did that song connect so strongly, you think?
Because it was plain-spoken grief and humility. No big speeches, just simple reflections like, did you dust off that Bible? Did you cry for the children who lost their dear loved ones? It felt like a hand on the shoulder. It won major awards and became a touchstone. Then he showed his range. In 2006, he released Precious Memories, a gospel album at his mother's request. It quietly sold about 1.5 million. Later that year, he took a left turn with Like Red on a Rose, produced by Alison Krauss, who's a bluegrass and Americana star. The sound leaned soft rock and adult contemporary, meaning more lush and mellow than honky-tonk. Some fans were divided, but critics praised the artistry.
He circled back to the core in 2008 with Good Time, loaded with fiddle-forward singles. In the 2010s, he shifted labels, forming ACR, Alan's Country Records, and partnering with EMI for more control. He kept exploring roots with the Bluegrass album in 2013, while the Country Music Hall of Fame celebrated his 25 years in 2014. Angels and Alcohol arrived in 2015. Then he opened AJ's Good Time Bar on Lower Broadway in 2016. That's Nashville's honky-tonk strip, and his bar planted his brand right on the main drag.
In 2017, he released The Older I Get and was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame by Loretta Lynn, who herself is a legend of classic country storytelling. He entered the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2018. Then in 2021, he dropped Where Have You Gone, a hard traditional statement with lots of fiddle and steel, while saying in interviews he worried country music had drifted too far. That same year, he publicly shared he has Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, a hereditary nerve disorder that affects balance and muscle strength. It explained why standing on stage had become tougher. In 2022, he announced a farewell run, one more for the road tour, with a final concert date scheduled for June 2026.
Through all that, the legacy looks solid. A long arc of #1s, steadfast traditional sound, and cultural moments like Where Were You? Plus collaborations across eras from George Strait to Zac Brown Band. Zac Brown is a modern country group with rootsy leanings, showed he could bridge generations without losing himself.
Let's get into a big question. In 2000, Murder on Music Row sparked the debate that traditional country was being pushed out by pop influences. The song basically mourned the loss of fiddle and steel on radio. Is traditional country really on life support, or does it just cycle in and out of the spotlight?
I'd say it cycles. Styles ebb and flow. Alan's career shows that even when radio trends pop up, the core sound persists and adapts. Look at his gospel and bluegrass records. They did real numbers. And when he released Where Have You Gone, it was like, hey, tradition still has a home. Also, country audiences are broad. There's room for a Telecaster twang next to a more polished track. The toolbox gets bigger, not smaller.
I hear you, but I kind of think radio and streaming playlists can tilt the field. When the big slots go to pop country hybrids, traditionalists have to fight harder for oxygen. If not for artists like Jackson keeping that bar high, the steel guitar might feel like a museum piece. You know what I mean?
For sure, but I also think the audience seeks out what they love. Live shows prove it. Jackson could pack arenas with a straightforward band, and moments like Murder on Music Row remind the industry to recalibrate. It's like a pendulum. Even if it swings pop for a while, tradition keeps pulling it back.
So maybe the answer is both. It can feel endangered at times, but artists like Jackson act as anchors. And when big cultural moments hit, like 9/11, listeners often lean toward songs that feel timeless. That gives traditional country a renewed pulse.
Speaking of pop culture, he shows up in fun places. He appeared on the sitcom Home Improvement in 1996, performing Mercury Blues, which is a raucous barroom classic. He co-wrote and recorded the title song for A Million Ways to Die in the West in 2014 with Seth MacFarlane, who created Family Guy, and composer Joel McNeely. And back home in Georgia, a stretch of Interstate 85 is named the Alan Jackson Highway. Meanwhile, media often contrasted his low-key stagecraft with Garth Brooks and Shania Twain, who are megastar country pop showrunners. Different lanes, all big impact.
All right, counterfactual time. What if Denise had never met Glenn Campbell on that flight and never got that crucial manager contact? No Arista Nashville deal in 1989, at least not in that way. Do you think Alan's career would have stayed regional longer?
I think he eventually breaks through, but timing is everything. The neo-traditional wave of the late 80s and early 90s was a perfect window. Without that Campbell connection, maybe he's delayed, and those early hits land after radio has tilted a little more pop. That could mean fewer number ones, maybe a different producer, and less momentum into Don't Rock the Jukebox. And if his rise comes later, the lightning in a bottle moment of Where Were You after 9/11 might not have aligned the same way.
Right. And zooming out, if he hadn't been a major figure, the traditionalist counterweight would feel lighter. Maybe Murder on Music Row doesn't hit as hard without Jackson and George Strait together. The ripple effect could touch other artists too. Fewer high-profile nods to fiddle and steel, fewer mainstream detours into gospel or bluegrass from someone with that kind of reach. It's one of those small door, big hallway turns. One chance meeting unlocks a whole scene.
And it underlines how team dynamics matter. Denise's support, Keith Stagel's steady production hand, the Strayhorn's continuity. Change any one of those levers, and you probably get a different arc. Not worse necessarily, just different. But the version we got helped define a whole era of country music.
Thanks for hanging with us today. It's been a joy tracing the road Alan Jackson paved and the roots he protected.
Yeah, stay curious about music history. There's always another thread to pull and another song that hits different.